engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. And most ironically, Kathleen K. Montgomery is the very same high-level UUA leader, that is Unitarian Universalist Association leader, who also coordinated the works or coordinated the UUA's participation in amicus briefs that basically opposed blasphemy laws and the use of blasphemy laws in the United States on the grounds that they were unconstitutional. So it's really quite hypocritical for Kathleen K. Montgomery and the Unitarian Universalist Association to cite Canada's blasphemy law in immoral, unethical, borderline criminal legal bullying that seeks to intimidate me into removing blog posts about Unitarian Universalists who are actually convicted of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape, and were sent to jail for some years for their despicable crimes. It's really just a stunningly hypocritical double standard exercised by the Unitarian Universalist Association in general, and Kathleen K. Montgomery in particular. But I'm not leaving UUA President Reverend Dr. Peter Beyond Belief Morales out of this, because he had to sign off on that. He had to prove that. So regardless of how much or how little personal involvement he had in, hiring Stikeman Elliott and, having these specific accusations brought against me in a cease and desist demand letter or two, he nonetheless approved of this legal bullying that Kathleen K. Montgomery would have been the person most responsible for organizing. And in addition to that, when I contested this and other accusations in response to Maitre Marc-André Coulombe's cease and desist demand letters, and sent letters back to President Morales and the UUA Board of Trustees, making it very clear that I was most certainly not guilty of blasphemous libel. I was telling the truth about Unitarian Universalist ministers, or even a non-minister, who were actually convicted of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape, and demanded that the UUA must formally withdraw that accusation and apologize for bringing it against me, while Reverend Dr. Peter Beyond Belief Morales obstinately refused to do so. It's more than 2.5 years since that accusation was brought against me on Friday, June 1st of 2012, and to date, the Unitarian Universalist Association has not formally withdrawn the accusation, has not apologized for bringing it against me, and two UUA moderators are implicated in this. UUA moderator Jeannie Corder was made aware of everything at the time and made aware of my demands as the moderator of the UUA Board of Trustees, who are supposed to ensure that the UUA administration, led by UUA President Peter Morales, act properly within the claimed principles and purposes of Unitarian Universalism. By all means, Jeannie Corder and the UUA Board of Trustees should have forced President Morales to withdraw the accusation and apologize, but of course they didn't. So as far as I'm concerned, the UUA, good day, UUA Board of Trustees and now two UUA moderators are 100% complicit in this false blasphemous libel accusation against me. And Jim Key, unfortunately, has really put his foot in it, because I did have some communication with Jim Key towards the end of trying to resolve this matter and other matters. I had a lengthy telephone conversation with him in September of 2013, where we went over the various issues, and essentially Jim Key dropped the ball and failed to ensure that the UUA withdrew the accusation, apologized, and made sure that UUA President Reverend Dr. Peter Beyond Belief Morales was censured for his incredibly foolish participation in clergy abuse, cover-up and denial, legal bullying. But if this wasn't bad enough, dropping the ball, failing to do anything to ensure that the UUA corrected its very, very serious error in judgment, Jim Key, in June of 2014, last year, Thursday, June 27th, to be precise, stood up in front of thousands of Unitarian Universalists at the UUA General Assembly in Providence, Rhode Island, and delivered what was supposed to be a second apology to victims of clergy sexual misconduct in the middle of his moderator's report to the UUAGA. And in this ostensible official apology, Jim Key brazenly lied about Unitarian Universalist clergy sexual abuse in general, and also specifically in terms of clergy sexual abuse of children. Jim Key, 3 or 4 paragraphs into his supposed apology, said, let me put this in the proper perspective, and went on to say that only a small number, or indeed only a very small number, of Unitarian Universalist ministers are guilty of clergy sexual misconduct of any kind, which is completely ludicrous in light of the fact that no less than 400 congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations have been affected by clergy sexual misconduct of one kind or another, but as many as 2/3 have had a minister who is guilty of one form of clergy sexual misconduct or another. That's a huge percentage of Unitarian Universalist congregations that have been affected by clergy sexual misconduct over the years. And it's not a small number of Unitarian Universalist ministers. At rock bottom minimum, it's a few hundred. But as if that wasn't bad enough, playing down the overall number of ministers who are guilty of clergy sexual misconduct, Jim Key went on to say, there were no incidents of abuse of children or elders in my investigations. So, I think we all agree that what he is saying there is that, in his own personal investigations into Unitarian Universalist clergy sexual misconduct, he found no evidence of children or elders being sexually abused by Unitarian Universalist clergy. I mean, that's I'm sure, what he was trying to say. We could get all sarcastic about it and say, oh, well, maybe what he meant was, he didn't abuse any children or elders in his investigations of clergy sexual misconduct, which is about the only way that statement could be truthful. And even that's open to some dispute. But nonetheless, no, it's pretty clear that UUA moderator Jim Key, in what was supposed to be an official apology to UUA clergy sexual misconduct victims, brazenly lied about children being sexually abused by Unitarian Universalist ministers. I'm not saying there's a huge epidemic of clergy sexual abuse of children in the Unitarian Universalist religious community, but for Jim Key to try to pretend that there's none whatsoever is quite frankly insane. Unfortunately, that's exactly what Jim Key did. You know, he didn't precisely say that there was absolutely no clergy sexual abuse of children. He sort of hedged his bets a little bit by saying that he found no evidence of it in his investigations. But this is a lie in any case, because I personally told Jim Key about several cases of clergy sexual abuse of children where the ministers in question were actually charged with crimes and convicted and went to jail. Reverend Mac W. Mitchell is one of those ministers, and I certainly told Jim Key about Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell and the fact that he was convicted of raping teenage Tibetan refugees who he lured away from their families in India with promises of a better life in America. But I also told Jim Key that there are other cases of actual pedophilia, in other words, the sexual abuse of preteen children. That's how I define pedophilia. You know, children who were younger than 13 years old, who were sexually abused, molested by Unitarian Universalist ministers who, you know, subsequently were charged, tried, and convicted of sexual abuse of children. You know, and these cases were well known to the UUA. They were certainly well known to people who advocate for victims of clergy sexual misconduct, including myself. It's almost inconceivable that I'm the only person who told Jim Key about the fact that, yes, unfortunately, certain Unitarian Universalist ministers are in fact guilty of engaging in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape, to borrow a couple of choice phrases from Stikeman Elliott, Barristers and Solicitors, litigation lawyer, Maitre Marc-André Coulombe.